Welcome to Serenity Rising Healing with Cancer. I'm Bron Watson, and I want to welcome you to not just a podcast, but to a community. A new way of seeing, feeling, and walking through the chaos of cancer. My guest today has spent her career in the place where the easy answers have run out. She describes the people she works with as standing at the edge, where the stakes are real, where the diagnoses are also real, and where the answers can no longer be superficial. She knows that edge not only from her practice, but from watching people she loves navigate it themselves. Dr. Ellyn Hilliard-McLeod holds a PhD in holistic nutrition, has spent years working with individuals facing life-threatening illness through her practice, Sedona Solutions, based in Sedona, Arizona, US. What she brings to that work is something that cannot be taught in a classroom. It comes from standing in both places, the professional place and the human one. Her message for anyone navigating cancer right now is 3 lines, and I want you to hear these before we go anywhere else. Cancer is a teacher. Listen carefully. You are not your diagnosis. And we want to remove the blocks to your wholeness. So, Ellyn, welcome to Serenity Rising. It is so good to have you here.
Well, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here from the other side of the world.
It is. We've just been talking about time zones, but here we are. So before we go anywhere else, I'd love to hear a little bit more about how we got here, which is you've come from your work from 2 directions, and we'll get into that work shortly. But as a practitioner, but also watching loved ones go through this experience of facing a cancer diagnosis themselves, do you think having that personal experience has changed the way you show up in the room with someone who's now in it?
Well, definitely, because I probably wouldn't even be in this field had it not been for my family. And my father was diagnosed with prostate cancer back in 1992. And as a result of his process, and he went through the entire Western medicine gamut. But at the end, he didn't survive. But at the end, he started working with a holistic nutritionist. And the thing that was so impressive for me was that the things she was doing actually made him feel better, whereas the things he was doing with the chemo and the radiation and then eventually surgery and a clinical trial were making him feel worse. So as a result of that, seeing what might have been had he not done the 3 years worth of surgeries and ultimately a clinical trial, which he passed away from a stroke from the results of the clinical trial drug.
I'm sorry to hear that.
But I felt like if he'd had a chance of doing some of the things that made him feel healthier, that he might have not only felt better throughout the entire treatment, but that he would have made it longer. And I don't know if he would have ever survived, but he definitely would have made it longer. The other thing that was such a huge issue for me, and because my brother, my sister, and my mother all ended up being diagnosed with cancer over the next few years, is that there is a spiritual component. There is a psychological, emotional component that wasn't being addressed by his physicians. And yet my sister and my mother were very interested in that aspect of it. And so through a lot of meditation work and calming their nervous system and forgiving the people that in their lives they needed to forgive, including themselves, they had a much better experience. In fact, my sister's still alive. My mother died at 92. She was diagnosed when she was 64. So I think that it would have been a better result, at least how they felt and what they felt they accomplished.
So was that the turning point? Is that what got you into holistic nutrition? Is that what was the turning point? Because obviously you are a teacher and you do teach year 6 children. So that was the turning point to actually go and find a career in it?
Well, it's kind of a funny story. As a result of really being interested in this nutrition and seeing how it really helped affect my family, I ended up getting a certification in diet counseling and through a college in Northern California, through Bauman College, and then started pursuing my master's and my PhD in holistic nutrition through Clayton College of Natural Health. But I went into the print shop to get my business cards and my brochures done, and the gentleman who owned the shop asked his employee to bring me back into his office. He says, "Oh, you're the one that has the business cards that say you're interested in cancer nutrition. And I said, well, yeah. He says, well, I have colon cancer and I would like to invite you to my hospital cancer support group. And so I said, well, gosh, I don't have anything to lose. Absolutely. I'd love to come
I
and visit.
love that.
Well, I walked into this support group and there were 90 plus cancer patients in that room. It was almost like a
Wow.
theater style in the hospital. And as it turned out, it was put on by the American Cancer Society, but the programmers, the ones who were going to be facilitating, which were the registered dietitians, didn't want to participate because they were being asked to do it for free after hours. They all wanted to go
Right.
home. So I did it for free, and I did a
Yeah.
12-week course with these people and had an amazing response from all of them. And that's how I ended up launching into the cancer aspect of it. And many of these people became clients of mine and came to my support groups. My support groups were always free. I host them here too in Sedona. And those are the places where you really see the transformation happen because the people are sharing their experiences. It's just so incredibly warm and rich to be in the room with all of them.
Wow. And that's how we got here, people. And this is how we have these. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And I think that's the whole blessing of conversation, of connection, to being open to something different and something new. And I think that's where, for me, coming from where I come from with a path of healing, if that is not a path of healing, I'm just so excited to hear more about that. So now I want to ask you about your 3 things that you said, which is cancer is a teacher, which I agree, to listen carefully, and that it's the profound reframe is the way I put that, which is what has it taught both through the people you've worked with? I mean, even in that room of 90, that would have been quite overwhelming when you were just thinking you're having a conversation with a support group, and then through your family's experience. So what does cancer actually say when someone is finally quiet enough to hear it? And more importantly, how can someone learn to listen carefully?
Well, my book, It Takes More Than Carrot Juice, The Missing Ingredients to Total Healing. I speak about these stories with some people. There's 20 different patients that I talk about their stories. Not all of them survive physically, but all of them have some sort of a wake-up call emotionally and spiritually. And I would say that when I say that cancer is your teacher, it's a loud knock at the door. There were probably other small little whispers that happened along the way, and either you don't listen or you get too busy or there's something other type of distraction. But when cancer comes knocking, it's a very, very loud bang. And most people see that this is something that could end their physical existence. And so they're a lot more interested in participating in the healing aspect of it. And that's the way that we look at it, is that you are already whole and healed. You're already a complete divine human being, perfect the way God intended you to be. But over your life, you've put obstacles or blocks in your path. And some of those things are physical blocks. Maybe you've been a long time smoker. Maybe you've been exposed to some sort of a toxin. Maybe you have a toxic relationship. Maybe there's a spouse that you've got this terrible anger towards and you haven't forgiven them. So there's a lot of different things that can be removed. We take a look at those. The support group is really crucial because many times people in the support group can see things that the patient can't see. And so they'll bring it up in a very loving, but a very abrupt way, a very truthful way. And it's where the real transformation happens. So that's what I mean by your cancer can be your teacher. These obstacles, these things that you need to see in your life can be healed. And in many situations, that healing, that waking up, that forgiveness leads to physical healing. Not always. Half of the stories in my book are not about a physical survival, but they're all about a wake-up call.
And I think for me, that is the most important thing, which is why we talk about being on a path of healing, because it's not about the quantity. And I think that's what happens. And I think the word cure from Western medicine brings in that it has to be a finite. when it doesn't. It doesn't at all. And, I had knocks on my, I had feathers, I call it like the feather, like a little whisper that things weren't right. And it wasn't till I had the brick of cancer thrown through the back of me to go, hang on, Bron, there's something that has to change here. And I remember someone said to me at the time of the first diagnosis, they said, Bron, if you don't change the way you're living, it's going to come back, which at the time was horrific thing to hear, because of course it's like trauma on trauma on trauma. And that's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about here is actually slowing down, opening your heart and opening your mind to going, okay, in my world, what is in my control? What is something that I can look at? And that's what I love. I'd love to hear more about the support groups because, like for me, it took me, I think, a good couple of years before I could even have a conversation with someone in the same situation as me, because I couldn't handle my own situation, let alone listening to someone else's, especially if they were in, I don't say this disrespectfully, but still in that fear victim state versus, man, I'm here and I'm going to make the best of it. Tell me about how that works in the groups, because I really believe that, we do need a community to bring us through on a path of healing. It is better to do it with people. So tell me about that side of the support groups that you run.
Our support groups are incredibly upbeat and positive, very different than some of the hospital support groups.
Yeah.
One of the things that the gentleman that pulled me aside at the print shop was telling me was that he hated to go back to these support groups because somebody was complaining about their chemotherapy or another person was lamenting about their hair loss or whatever. And I told him, well, you ought to probably come and meet some of the people in my office because they're pretty optimistic. When you're working on a healing path rather than looking for a magic bullet that's the other word I don't like is survival rate, right? Besides cure, that's survival rate. Because survival means, it's awful. Because then they give you timelines, right? The physicians give you survival timelines. And there's also this aspect to survival where they're willing to do anything they can do in order to keep the body alive. And we might destroy every part of your immune system in order to do it. So instead, what we're doing is we're looking at what does the body need? What is this state of homeostasis, where it's this natural state of well-being that can heal itself, where the body knows how to heal itself. And we do everything we possibly can to add to that aspect. So when people ask me, well, then what kind of diet? Whatever Mother Nature intended you to eat. Think of what could Mother Nature have intended you to eat? Would Mother Nature have intended you to drink an entire big gulp of Coca-Cola? Probably not. Yep. Would Mother Nature think that maybe juicing some of those cucumbers and green apples and limes might be something that would be helpful for you? Absolutely. So we look at that still small voice. Listen to that voice. Learn to differentiate between what is from fear. You've got to survive. We want your survival rate to be high. We want you to be part of this clinical trial because there's so much hope in this clinical trial. We really think that it might do something for you and we don't want you to miss it. Yeah. Or is it, let's tune in to the divine. Let's tune into your inner voice, to your higher self. Let's listen to what your heart is telling you. What is it that you really need in order to feel whole, complete, happy, and healed? And that's what we're going to try to give your body.
I love you're speaking to my soul, because when we do that, we are taking back what I call the power card. It's irrespective of what's coming, because it means in that time, in that moment, you are exactly where you're meant to be, doing what you're meant to be doing. And the only way to do that is to listen. And listen to yourself. And, I often talk about, as a mother of 5 and coming from nursing and nursing education and running my own business, when you're giving a lot, it's really, for me, can I talk for me? I found it really hard to listen, Ellyn. And I didn't listen until I had to, versus, wow, people, we don't want to get to that point. We want to get to the point where, that you're listening. And gut instinct, call it what you will. It's so important to healing because it doesn't matter what you choose, because what you choose will be right for you. That's
Absolutely.
that's my belief,
Mhm.
is that because what you're doing is that you're then in the seat. As I say, you are the CEO of your own body. I'm the CEO of Bron. So who's on my executive committee? And I think that's what you're saying here is
Yes.
who, because those seats are chosen to be on the executive committee. It's not, they're earned. So anyway, let's keep going. So as you say, you are not your diagnosis, but what does it take for someone to actually believe that? Not just in their head, but in their body, when the diagnosis is the only thing that anyone around them is talking about.
Well, in our support groups, we actually go through 12 principles of attitudinal healing. And they were developed by Dr. Jerry Jampowski. And he wrote a book years ago, back in the 70s, that Love is All There Is. And he talked about the difference between listening to that voice of fear and listening to that voice of love. And love is where all the healing is. So what we talk to people about in that support group is that you are an eternal being. This is not the end of your life. You are an eternal being, and that essence is love. And the more you can get into that space, and we are all here in this group, in this support group, in this planet, to nurture that aspect of you. And when you can understand, first of all, that you're an eternal being, there is no death, and that you are also, giving and receiving are the same. So we're going to give you love, and that fear is really not the essence of who you are. In fact, we actually even say that fear isn't even a real thing. You're projecting it. The real thing is love. And that's what we try to help people understand. We do meditation, guided meditations. We work on journaling. We write letters to people that we need to forgive or that we need to ask for forgiveness for. We start putting lists together that if your life ended tomorrow, what is it that you felt you needed to do? We put that whole list together. Some people call it a bucket list, but we try to put that list together so you could go out and do it, find your purpose. We feel that the purpose of all of our lives is to forgive so that we can live our best lives and be the champions of our own life. And then we kind of launch people. Most of the people in our support group end up, when they finally get to that confident place where they realize their love and they begin to love themselves, they're able to go out there and help others. And that's the ultimate. The service of love to others, extending yourself to other people. And that's where we really see the amazing healing happen.
Oh, I love it.
So the very first principle of attitudinal healing is that the essence of our being is love. We've already talked about that you have to really understand that's who you are. And the second is that health is inner peace. So when you finally feel that inner peace, that's why we do those exercises to get you to that spot. That's when healing begins. So, and that healing really is letting go of fear. So we have a process. It's a 6-step process where we, first of all, admit that this is all about you, that this is your perception of the world, that nobody can take your peace from you. You have to guard it very closely, and that you have to identify what that terrible feeling is so we can transform it into peace. And we go back and take a look at, where did you first start feeling that? Maybe it was at the beginning of your diagnosis. Maybe it was in childhood. Maybe there was an incident in which you were punished, or whether you went through a messy divorce or a custody battle, or your children are estranged, and you can pinpoint where that spot is. And then we help you through guided meditation and prayer to get to that point where you can turn it around and realize that you're not worthless, you're worthy, that you are exactly who God intended to have sitting in that seat right there. And that it doesn't matter whether your children aren't talking to you or your husband divorced you. If you love yourself, you're okay with that. So that's all part of attitudinal healing principle number 2. And then I mentioned before, number 3 is giving and receiving are the same.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
as much as you can give, you also receive. So when you're in that support group for the first time, you're really receiving a lot of love from people. But there is a point where you realize that you want to give back. And that's principle 3. There's more, but those are the
Yeah.
first
I
3.
love that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because I've done that in terms of especially number 2, but I didn't know that there was that framework around it in the fact that I've taught myself to, when I am walking into the Cancer Institute or Cancer Centre, I have to go every month. Well, I choose to go every month to see my specialist, and there's blood results involved. And of course, when it's a hematology blood issue, that's kind of important. And I now have taught myself, and I've learned it. This is the whole thing with healing. It can be learnt. It doesn't come naturally. Didn't for me. And I've learnt that I can sit there in absolute conscious presence with zero fear. Doesn't mean that there's not a little bit of nervous anxiety, but more not fear, which means that I'm prepared for no matter, and then as I say to myself, whatever happens beyond those double doors when I walk through there, we'll deal with it.
Right.
And it's just, that's what I love the fact that there's a framework behind it. And this is the thing I believe with a lot of what we're learning. None of this is not new. We're just repurposing or repackaging or bringing to light what should be considered, in my opinion, should be just standard of care. And it's not. This is all missed. This is, for my experience, none of it was ever offered to me. And I'd love to hear from people who are listening. If you were offered it, I'd love to hear about your experience in this space, because if what you're talking about, the attitudes, the 12 attitudes, and then handling through that's the difference between, I believe, a full and happy life.
Yes.
Than not.
Absolutely.
It's as simple as that. We're not talking quantity here. We're talking quality and a fullness of life. So I love the fact. And so when someone does come who is new, and like say one of our listeners is thinking, wow, I'd love to find out more. And obviously there will be a lot of, there's some anxiety around how do I process things? It doesn't make sense, Bron or Ellyn. I don't understand what you're saying. What would be something that you would say to that person when they're let's say, imagining that we're walking through the doors together?
Well, the first thing we do after introductions is we ask them, what is one thing they love about themselves? When they're new, that's the question we ask them. We say, you're new? Could you please tell us how you found us? And could you tell us one thing you love about yourself? That's the very first thing we do.
Wow. I love that question.
Some people have a difficult time with it.
Yes. That's why I'm laughing, because I know that I wouldn't know of how to answer that back in the day.
Yeah. But it's to let them know that the room is full of unconditional love and support and acceptance, and that we are merely presenting ourselves as as vulnerable a position as they are. So then when people actually have a chance to go around, the individual feels a little better because they get to hear some of the stories of how people turn things around and, reconnected with their spouse, or there's stories in the book. But to give you an example of one, a woman who was a repeated intestinal carcinoid tumor that would keep recurring after every surgery. It would several months later, it would be back.
Oh, wow.
And eventually the husband says to me, I think there's something more than just a diet here. We have a son who is not in our lives, and we haven't forgiven him because we found out he was gay.
Oh, wow.
And so we talked all about it. The woman cried all the way through the sessions, and Easter was coming, and we all decided together that we thought the most healing thing that could possibly happen for her was to have a reuniting at Easter. And the husband invited the son over with his partner, and they had this amazing experience. She dropped all of her judgment. She apologized. She asked for his forgiveness. She told him why she felt this guilt. And everything cleared up and she never had to have another surgery again. So it's
Wow.
finding those parts. You can keep having the surgeries again and again and again, or that chemo works initially and then it comes flashing back. But there's other aspects. There's other aspects that we're not admitting to ourselves. So one of the things you said I thought was really very important, and that is that when you get a cancer diagnosis, many of the first things that happen are fearful things.
Mm-hmm.
You're told that you've got cancer. You're told you're going to have to go through an excruciating process of chemotherapy or radiation. You're told a survival. I mean, a lot of people get timelines right away. I mean, talk about how fearful that is, right?
And you don't ask for it, Ellen. I got given one.
Yeah,
and I didn't even ask. I didn't even ask for it. And it was literally given to me. And, Bron, you're only going to live, your life expectancy is this number. It's a single digit, might I add. I don't say the exact digit because I have my children. Right. And it was as if I was being asked if I would like a cup of tea.
Right.
I didn't ask for that. Not cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So instead, what if you were reminded that you were really a loving, whole, wonderful person that was just learning a lesson and this is just a symptom? Cancer is just a symptom of something deeper. Let's take a look at what that is. Let's learn from it. There's a series of characteristics. I thought about it when you told me you were a caregiver. But there's a series of characteristics that Dr. Brody out of the Las Vegas area, he's since passed away and his practice has been taken over by another physician. But he has these 7 cancer patient characteristics of the people who are most likely to develop cancer. One of them is that you see your cancer as an enemy that has to be slain. And so you're willing to do anything to get rid of that cancer, including harming your immune system or harming yourself. And, that's one aspect. But the other is that they're usually caregivers. They're usually people who take care of everybody else but themselves.
Yep.
And so it's really hard to see you keep busy with trying to care for others. And you have to learn to love and then nurture yourself.
And as I said before, it doesn't come naturally. Well, it certainly didn't for me. I can't talk for anyone else. And it's been a hard time. It doesn't mean that you love less, people. Just so you know, it doesn't mean that you don't love and care less for whether it be your profession or whether it be your family, friends, and in your role. But what it means is that very old-fashioned thing, which is your cup is full and then you give. Mm-hmm. And that comes with awareness, and that for me, and that awareness comes for when you start slowing and start looking inside. And for me, it's about energy. I run my business. I run the whole thing, everything around me in life around energy, meaning I'm so protective of myself, my energy, and the people who are in my life because it's what we're talking about, because we can love on everyone if you want to. And it's not that I don't, but what I'm conscious of is that if I know my battery's low, just like you do on your phone, you charge your phone, you put it on charge, don't you, when it runs down? It's the same as your body, which is where we want to start recharging. I was living on energy 2 years in advance. 2 years. Honestly, the battery was dead and I didn't know it. And I'm forever grateful for this lesson. Could it have been a little easier? Yes.
Yeah.
Would I have preferred something less? Yes. But what it does, though, is the gratitude I have for what I have now been given this opportunity to speak to amazing people like you around all the things we can do. God grant me serenity to accept what I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And this is how we learn this stuff. So I want to talk a little bit more about those blocks that you mentioned. So if we want to remove the blocks to your wholeness, can you give me some examples of what those blocks would typically be? And what does the work of removing them actually look and feel like, which I think we've already touched on. But what does it look like when you feel for someone who's in the middle of treatment? So we're talking to the person who's living, like I live through it. That's my where I am right now. But I'm talking about someone who may be in treatment, and how's it going to look and feel for them if they start looking at some of these blocks?
Most people either come to our support group in one of two situations. Either they've been through a lot of Western med types of treatments and their physician has said, there's nothing more we can do for you. And so they come to our doorstep.
Yep.
Or they have a sense, they have an intuition that they are in charge and they can do something about it. And they come right away. And it doesn't mean that they make a decision against medical treatment. They
No.
very well may choose chemotherapy or surgery, but they realize that they are responsible. So I would say that if you were looking at some of those obstacles, I would say the biggest obstacle most people have in their path is they think they're a victim.
Yep.
They think something happened to them from outside. They think this cancer just automatically just showed up on their doorstep unannounced. They think when they do get to the point where they're doing chemo, they're seeing their chemo as a terrible, suffering enemy, that this is a sacrifice they're making for wellness or for their family, or look what I'm doing for you, instead of seeing it as a healing opportunity. Because you can see the chemo or the juicing or the acupuncture treatment or the radiation as a kind of a healing energy that's happening to you. So it's how you see it. It's really if you're trying to remove those obstacles, it's changing your perspective. And that's really what it is. Taking that obstacle and looking at it and saying, wow, I never really looked at it this way before. I never really saw that my ex-husband was a mirror for me. And I can see that he's just calling for love too. Wow, I can put that obstacle over here. Or wow, my cigarettes, that's really interesting. Now I see that I started smoking these cigarettes because I didn't feel loved. And I felt like these cigarettes really just made me feel loved. And I realized now I can love myself. I can put them over here. So it's really going through the process and seeing, first of all, that they are obstacles, right? And then you realize you don't need them. We call them idols, that these are the idols you put all your faith in. You don't need those idols anymore. Now you're loving yourself and you realize love is all there is, which is one of the attitudinal healing principles.
Yeah.
And that there's a lot of things you could let go.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And sometimes with that, like I will often say, we just got to let it be.
You do.
Because
you do, and try to be in the moment.
Exactly. Because I had a mentor once who told me, Bron, you just got to let it go. You got to let it go. And it's like, well, I would if I knew how. I don't know how to let it go. I don't know what you're saying to me. It made no sense. And it wasn't till I realized that if I just let it be, which means that I'm not trying to do anything. It just sits there and I'm just going to let it be. It just dissolves on its own. And
we tell her.
That's what you're talking about.
You should. So there's nothing you can do about the past. It's gone, right? So it's done.
Exactly.
So we say it's over. There's nothing you could do about it. It happened or didn't happen. However you perceive it, you can't go back. It's history. The future, why worry about it? 89% of everything that people worry about never happens. They've done studies on it. It never happens.
I know.
All these things you think about, I'm going to die. I'm going to be in pain. Oh, my family will never be able to get along without me, blah, 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 blah. All these things are another illusion. The only control you have is in the moment. It's right now, and now is for loving. And so if you know now is for peace and now is for loving, put all your energy into that moment.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a saying, which is, I know I will, I just don't know how. And it's, and the how part for me, I believe in what you're talking about is control. So when we let be or let go of trying to control, especially for a caregiver, caregiving it for me was really around trying to control the situation to make sure everyone was going to be happy and healthy.
Right. Trying to fix it.
I was called Mrs. Fix It.
Yeah. There you go.
And it's, I laugh about it because it's not a compliment, people, just so you know, but I didn't see that for what it was. And it's the forgiveness to myself, because I did the best I could with what I had. And it doesn't matter why there's a diagnosis, because
It doesn't.
as you just said, we can't change the past, and we don't want to blame and shame ourselves. So when we are focusing on the present, there is no place for that. And it's, as you're saying, it's called love and self-love, because when you love on yourself, you will automatically love on the people around you. And
Automatically.
as a caregiver, that's what I've learned, is that you automatically be able to put out what you're saying. You know, like
Yes.
I'll give you a quick example. So this week it's been the 3-year anniversary to the stem cell transplant. So in multiple myeloma land, they love to call that rebirth. Oh, it's your third rebirth birthday or whatever, right?
Congratulations.
And I'm going, well, I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the science, and I haven't shared ever what that experience was like until this week. And so I did a post on social media around what that felt like. And it's brutal, but I have such gratitude for people who were so committed to providing space and opportunity for me to be able to go and live full out now. And it wasn't to share to go, oh my God, look what Bron went through. It wasn't that, because we've all got war stories. We've all got the scars. It's not about the scars. It's about understanding, for me, the gratitude. Oh, I'm so grateful, because not only do they love to give you they then like to give you the prognosis of how long it's going to last for.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, right. Okay. So I'm already beating the odds there. So, but I really believe if I focused on all of that side of it versus it's what I call, if you're going to put it in your hand, it's everything else that is just equally and as important. And when you start looking at you, which is what you're talking about, and we're going to ask you some questions about this beautiful book you've written, is around, it's just begins and ends with understanding and giving yourself space to love and have compassion that you did the best you could with what you had. Yep. And now the best part is you've got so much opportunity for yourself.
There you go. Good.
There you go.
Well, and you say, how long is it going to last? How long is this healing going to last? So what we tell everyone is that it's going to last infinity.
Yes.
That is your God-given state. That is who you are. You are an eternal being. You are perfect, just the way you are. So it's not a matter of how long is the healing going to last. The healing is going to last forever. Yeah. It's about whether or not you choose to put another obstacle in your path. And that's up to you. That's your choice. There's a reference to, you were talking about your cup of love. If you have this cup of love that you have cultivated because you now know how to love yourself, you have to be protective of that cup of love. You have to, when people come in and want sips from that cup of love, you can give it as long as you can fill it back up. But if someone comes by and knocks that cup of love out of your hands because they're angry or they're disruptive or they are unforgiving or whatever it is that they're blaming you for something, you can take that little cup of love back and put it in a protective place, right? Yeah. So it is about boundary setting. And for people who are caregivers, there is a lot of boundary setting that has to happen.
Well, that actually leads exactly on to my last question for you, which is actually for the carers listening to our conversation, which is, when you are that person who is hanging on to the edge with their loved one, and what's one thing you could say to them right now that they could do this week to improve how they're feeling today?
We encourage people to put together a living plan. We call it a living plan, not, here's what to do if something happens to me and here's where the bank account is. And, no. What's the living plan? Well, you're here right now. Do you want to teach your grandchildren that amazing apple pie recipe that everybody loves when they come for a holiday? Do you want to go visit that beautiful place on the coast you've been dying to do, but you haven't done it because you've been so busy trying to heal yourself or go to chemo treatments or juicing every day? what are the things on your living plan? Because then people usually find that they get out of pain. And I don't just mean physical pain.
Yeah.
That's what pulls them out of the emotional and sometimes spiritual pain that they experience because they have this fear of the unknown. So create some wonderful, beautiful little moments with some best friends. Go hot tubbing with a bunch of girlfriends, go and you always wanted to take up a hobby and learn how to play piano. I know a 90-year-old woman that learned how to play piano at 90.
I love that.
Do what it is that you really want to do. And so putting that living plan is a really good place to start because then you know where you're heading, not what you're running from.
I love that. I've never heard of it called that before. And this is the thing, guys, we're forever learning. And I am so excited to hear more about the book, where people can find you. And we'll have all the links in the show notes, but tell us more about the book you've just written. And it's just launched, guys. It's brand new.
It's brand new.
Tell us about this. Tell us about the book and where people can find you.
It's just come out on Amazon and Ingram Spark. So both of those publishing companies will have it there. And you can order it by going on to either of those sites or on my SedonaSolution.com, my site. You can also click and go right to the Amazon link. The book was written last year. I was so busy that I could not get this thing finalized. I had everything written the way I wanted it, but I just couldn't get it off to the publisher. So I went to Costa Rica last year and I rented a yurt for 6 weeks and I sat down and finished the entire thing, edited it, sent it off to a couple friends of mine, including my dear cousin, who's an editor for his company newsletter, had them really just go through it with a fine-tooth comb. And then I got myself these fantastic publishing coaches and got it published just in the last couple of weeks. So you could go on all of those locations and find it. And I just finished taping the Audible. Yesterday was the last day. So it'll be on Audible in about 4 weeks. They have to listen through it and then send it to Amazon and their Audible company will listen to it, make sure everything is kosher, and then it'll go off and be on Audible. So if you're not a reader and you want to listen, it'll be there in 4 weeks.
I love that. Thank you. And I'm so excited to hear that. Now, about the groups and about programs and things, is it just local people or do you have anything online?
It is, but we have it on Zoom. So they can participate in Zoom. I have my laptop there. It's at our United Methodist Church here in Sedona. It's on Sundays at 5 p.m. our time. I'm on Pacific time and we're there for an hour and a half. And we go through each day, we go through a different attitudinal healing principle. And then we do some sort of an exercise, whether it's journaling or whether we're doing a guided meditation. Sometimes we actually do physical exercises to help kind of use somatic training to integrate into our body.
Yeah.
All kinds of things. We invite guest speakers in and speak, acupuncturists or people that come in, herbalists to speak. So they're welcome to go to my site and they can see the information. The next one, it's 2 Sundays a month. The next one's the 26th, July 26th at 5 p.m. Pacific time.
That is fantastic. So pretty much anyone across the globe, if they can fit into that time, could attend. Is that right?
Pretty much. How
exciting. Yeah. That's fantastic. I want to thank you so much for coming along and sharing your wisdom. Guys who are listening, I just want to really encourage you to think about this is healing right here. This is so amazing. But I want to thank you, Ellyn, for coming along and so appreciate your wisdom and what your mission on helping people living through not just cancer, but just dis-ease.
Thank you so much. I've enjoyed speaking with you. You've got an amazing show and you've had an amazing life. And that's all we want. We want everyone to have an amazing life and to be in gratitude for that amazing experience.
Well, thank you again. And thank you to all our listeners. We're in, I think, nearly 30 countries now. So we're doing an amazing job. Keep sharing and keep sharing it to the people who need to listen and find their serenity. So thanks, guys. And we'll see you on the next episode.
Beautiful. Thank you, Bron.
Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been great having you here. And what I would love you to do is leave a comment or ask a question using my fan link below this episode and on every episode that we post. I would love to hear your thoughts, your questions, and I'll get back to you. Have a great day and bye for now.